She thought she was losing her mind. Every time she looked in the mirror, the woman staring back at her felt like a stranger. She used to laugh loudly. She used to trust herself. She used to have friends who called just to hear her voice. But somewhere between the first "I love you" and the last slam door, she disappeared. Her name was Elena. She was 29 years old. She lived in Seattle, Washington. And what happened to her was not an accident. It was not a bad relationship. It was not bad luck. It was not her fault. It was a system. A calculated, invisible system designed by someone who knew exactly which psychological buttons to push and when to push them and how to make sure she never even realized it was happening. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you will recognize that system. And if someone is using it on you right now, you will know. The beginning. Elena met Daniel at a rooftop party in downtown Seattle on a warm July night. He was unlike any man she had ever met. Magnetic, attentive, fully present in a world where nobody is fully present anymore. He remembered the name of her childhood dog within the first hour of meeting her. He texted her a specific song the next morning, a song she had mentioned only once, in passing, almost as a joke. He paid attention in a way that felt like oxygen. Within 3 weeks, he was telling her she was unlike anyone he had ever met. Within 2 months, he was talking about moving in together. Her friends said it was too fast. She told them they just did not understand what this felt like. It felt like destiny. But here is what Elena did not know. And what she was experiencing had a name. Psychologists call it love bombing. Love bombing is the deliberate, overwhelming flooding of affection, attention, and idealization, used not out of genuine love, but as a tactic to create emotional dependency before the real manipulation begins. The narcissist is not falling for you. They are building a cage and making you believe it is a home. Like a fisherman who does not just throw out a hook. They spend weeks crafting the perfect bait, learning your wounds, learning what you have always wanted someone to say to you, and then saying it perfectly, every single time. Studies in behavioral psychology show that intense intermittent reward, getting something extraordinary, then having it pulled away, creates the same neurological addiction loop in the human brain as cocaine. Read that again. With the same loop as cocaine. And Daniel knew this, not because he had studied it, because to him, it came naturally. 4 months in, something changed. It was subtle at first. So subtle that if you had asked Elena about it, she would have said she was imagining things, which was exactly the point. Daniel forgot her birthday dinner reservation. Then somehow, within minutes, the conversation had shifted and Elena found herself apologizing to him for being upset. She could not explain how it happened. It just did. He began commenting on her friends. "I just do not think Sarah is good for you. She is always stirring drama." Then her coworker. "I notice you always seem drained after you spend time with Marcus. I just think some people are energy vampires and they do not even realize it." Then her sister. "Your family loves you, but I am not sure they really see who you are becoming. I see it, but they do not." Each comment was wrapped in care. Each one sounded like love. Slowly, quietly, Elena's world got smaller. And here is where the second dark tactic entered the picture: isolation. Narcissists do not isolate you with chains. They do not lock the door. They never say, "You cannot see your friends." They do it with concern. "I just worry about you when you are around people who do not appreciate you the way I do. I am the only one who truly sees you." I just want to protect you. These statements feel like love, but they are architecture, the slow, careful construction of a prison where the narcissist becomes the only door, the only window, the only voice that matters. By the time Elena was spending most weekends alone with Daniel in their Capitol Hill apartment, she did not notice she'd stopped calling her friends. It happened so gradually. It felt like her own choice. That is the genius and the horror of coercive psychological control. It does not feel like control. It feels like love. Then came the third tactic, the one that nearly destroyed her completely. Before I tell you what happened next, I need to ask you something. Have you ever been completely certain about something, and then had someone look you in the eye and calmly tell you that you are wrong, that you are imagining it, that you are overreacting? And have you ever, in that moment, started to believe them? If you have, keep watching. So because what I am about to describe will explain something you may have never had words for. It started the night Elena found a message on Daniel's phone. She was not snooping. The phone lit up on the kitchen counter and she saw it. She confronted him, calmly, with evidence. She had the phone in her hand, and Daniel looked at her, completely calm, took a slow breath, and said, "Elena, you've been so stressed lately. I have been genuinely worried about you. I think you are seeing things that are not there." She showed him the message, directly, screen facing him. He looked at it, looked back at her, and shook his head, slowly, sadly. "I do not know what you think that says, but honestly, I think you need to talk to someone. A therapist, maybe. Because this level of paranoia is not healthy, and I love you too much to pretend I am not scared for you right now." Within 40 minutes, Elena was apologizing to him. She was holding his hand, telling him she was sorry for accusing him, telling him she would think about seeing a therapist. Let that land for a moment. She had the evidence in her hand, and she ended up apologizing. This is gaslighting. The term comes from a 1944 film called Gaslight, where a husband secretly dims the gas-powered lights in the house at night, then convinces his wife she is imagining the flicker, night after night, until she genuinely believes she is going insane. In psychological terms, gaslighting is the systematic manipulation of someone's perception of reality, making the victim doubt their own memory, their own judgment, and ultimately, their own sanity. Dr. Robin Stern, while a psychoanalyst at Yale University, has spent years documenting this pattern. The victims she describes share one haunting similarity. They all say the same thing. "I felt like I was going crazy, but the crazy one was him." According to research published in the Journal of Experimental Psychology, people who are repeatedly told their memory is wrong begin to actually misremember events, even when they originally remembered correctly. Gaslighting does not just change how you feel, it rewires how your brain stores reality. The narcissist uses 4 key phrases to make this happen. "That never happened." "You are too sensitive." "You are imagining things." "Everyone agrees with me." "You are the problem." Each phrase is a small erosion, and like water wearing down stone, over months and years, it hollows you out from the inside. See, Elena began journaling, not because a therapist told her to, because she needed proof that she was not inventing her own reality. She needed to read her own handwriting and trust it more than his voice. That journal would later save her life. Now here is the part that most people do not expect, Because most people think the story goes like this. She realizes what he is doing. She leaves. It is over. But that is not how narcissistic abuse works. And this next part is the reason so many people stay for years, long after every alarm in their body is screaming at them to go. When Elena finally tried to leave, something unexpected happened. Daniel cried. Not the controlled, cold Daniel she'd come to fear. Not the man who could make her feel insane with a calm sentence and a slow blink. He collapsed. He sat on the floor of their Capitol Hill apartment, and he wept. He talked about his childhood in Portland, Oregon, a father who was never home, a mother who told him he was too much to handle. He talked about all the times he had been left, all the ways he had been broken, long before Elena ever met him. He was vulnerable in a way she had never seen, and the woman who had loved him, the woman who was still in there underneath all the confusion and the pain, her heart cracked open, and just like that, she stayed. This is the fourth tactic, the full cycle that narcissistic abuse researchers call idealize, devalue, discard, and hoover. Narcissists do not let their victims go easily, not because they love them, but because they need the supply. In narcissistic psychology, narcissistic supply is the term for the emotional energy. Attention, validation, and control a narcissist extracts from the people around them. It is what regulates their sense of self. Without it, they feel like nothing. A victim trying to leave threatens that supply, so the narcissist does not fight. They do not threaten. They become the person you fell in love with again, just briefly, just enough. This is called hoovering, named after the vacuum cleaner brand, because they suck you right back in. And here is the cruelest truth in this entire video. The intermittent return of warmth is more psychologically addictive than consistent love would ever be. Think about a slot machine. You do not keep pulling the lever because it always pays out. You keep pulling it because sometimes it does, and you never know when. Your nervous system begins to live for those rare moments of sweetness. It begins to organize your entire life around chasing them. That is not love. That is a trauma bond, and it is one of the most powerful psychological chains that exists. Elena stayed for another 4 months after that night on the floor. 4 more months. Not because she was weak, but because the system was working exactly as designed. The breaking point for Elena came on a Tuesday morning in February. The rain was hitting the windows of a Starbucks on Pike Street. She had left the apartment early before Daniel woke up, the way she had started doing when she needed to breathe. She opened her journal, not to write, just to read. She read all the way back to the beginning, 8 months of entries, and something happened that she had not expected. She saw herself, not the confused, apologizing, shrinking version of herself she had become, the real her, in the early pages, funny, sharp, clear, sure of things. And then she watched, page by page, as that woman slowly disappeared. She saw the first time she apologized for something she did not do. She saw the first time she canceled plans with her sister, because Daniel said something that made her feel guilty for going. She saw the entry where she wrote, in her own handwriting, "Maybe I am the problem." And something shifted in her chest, not rage, not sadness, clarity, like a fog lifting after months of not being able to see your own hands in front of your face. She sat in that Starbucks for 2 hours. She did not move. She just read and breathed and slowly remembered who she was. That afternoon, she called her sister for the first time in 5 months. She did not explain everything. She could not find the words yet. She just said, "I need help." Her sister did not ask questions. She just said, "I'm coming." 3 weeks later, Elena moved into her sister's apartment in Bellevue, Washington. She blocked Daniel on every platform. She started therapy. And the healing was not clean. It was not linear. There were nights she almost called him, nights she missed not him, but the version of him she had believed in at the beginning. The man on the rooftop, the man who remembered the song. She had to grieve someone who had never really existed. That is perhaps the most painful part of surviving a narcissist. You are not just healing from what they did. You are grieving the love you thought you had. Here is what Elena wants you to know. The hardest part was not leaving, and the hardest part was believing that what happened to her was real, that she had not made it up, had not exaggerated, was not the problem, because that is exactly what the narcissist wants you to believe. That is the final tactic, the one that outlasts the relationship, the voice in your head that sounds like yours, but was built by them. I need to pause here and speak directly to you, not to everyone watching, to you specifically. Because some of you recognize something in Elena's story that you have never been able to name before. Maybe you have been told you are too sensitive so many times that you started to believe it. Maybe your world has quietly gotten smaller and you told yourself it was your choice. Maybe you find yourself apologizing constantly and you cannot remember when that started. Maybe you feel more anxiety than joy, more relief than love. If any part of this video felt less like a story and more like a mirror, I want you to hear this. You are not crazy. You are not too much. You are not the problem. You have been in a system designed specifically to make you believe all of those things. And the fact that you are still here, still watching, still searching for answers, that is not weakness. That is survival. How to protect yourself here is what psychology tells us actually works. Number 1, name the tactics out loud. Narcissistic abuse thrives in confusion and shame. The moment you can look at a behavior and say, that is love bombing or that is gaslighting, it loses its invisible power over you. You are no longer experiencing something shapeless and overwhelming. You are experiencing something documented, studied, and survived by millions of people before you. Naming it is the first act of reclaiming your reality. Number 2, trust your written record more than your memory. Gaslighting is specifically designed to corrupt your recall. Your emotions in the moment can be manipulated. Your handwriting from 3 months ago cannot. If you are in a situation that confuses you, start writing. Date every entry. Your journal is evidence. Treat it like one. Number 3, make one phone call. You do not have to explain everything. You do not have to have the perfect words. You do not have to be ready to leave. You just have to make one call to someone who knew you before. One conversation with an old friend or a family member is enough to begin breaking the isolation. Then that outside voice is the first crack in the wall. Number 4, understand what a trauma bond actually feels like from the inside. A trauma bond does not feel like a trap. It feels like love mixed with fear, mixed with hope. It feels like, if I just do this one thing differently, he will go back to being the person I fell in love with. It feels like you cannot leave because you love them. But what you actually love is the potential of who they pretended to be. The real person has been showing you who they are for a long time. Believe them. Number 5, Remember this one sentence. Love should not feel like anxiety. That is it. That is the whole test. If the dominant emotion in your relationship is not safety, not peace, not the quiet confidence of being loved without conditions, if the dominant emotion is walking on eggshells, waiting for the next explosion, managing their mood like it is your full-time job, that is not love. That is a hostage situation dressed in romantic language, and you deserve to be free. Elena is okay now. It took time. It took therapy and tears and 3 a.m. phone calls and days she did not think she would survive. It took months of standing in front of the mirror and learning to recognize herself again. It took forgiving herself for staying and understanding that staying was not stupidity. It was the result of a system specifically designed to keep her there. But she is okay, more than okay. She is one of the clearest, strongest, most self-aware people she's ever been. Because when you survive something that tried to make you disappear, you come back knowing exactly who you are. And she wants you to know one thing before you close this video. What they did to you was not a reflection of your worth. It was a reflection of their emptiness. Whole people do not need to hollow others out to feel full. The most dangerous thing a narcissist fears is not anger. It is not confrontation. It is not exposure. It is knowledge. Yours. Because once you see the system clearly, it can never work on you again. So now you have it. If this video reached something in you, do not scroll past. Share it with someone who needs it. You might not know who that person is, but they know who they are. Drop a comment below and tell me which part of Elena's story hit the hardest. Your words might be exactly what someone else needed to read today. Subscribe to Mind Vault for more of the psychology they never taught you in school. And remember, the shadow cannot survive the light.